All right, guys, this segment is positioning yourself after the initial interviews with a whole host of different realtors and how to do some investigative due diligence. So in your interview process, hopefully you've gleaned as much information as you possibly can about these folks. They've provided you data, you have their cards, you have promotional materials about themselves and their business, and now you can start digging into this stuff outside of the initial interview on your own time when you've got a little bit extra time to breathe. So we'll go over first these designations we talked about. You'll often find them at the end of a realtor's title, whether that's licensed salesperson or associate broker or whatever the case may be. You'll have these alphabet soup designations. Some of them are bought as we described. Some of them are learned as we described. You have to take classes. Some of them are only available to folks and real estate professionals who have survived and effectively survived a number of real estate transactions that have weighted scores associated to them. There are certain designations that you can only apply for and then be allowed to take classes if you've been licensed in a certain sector of real estate, like commercial or industrial or something like this, for a number of years and have accumulated a specific score, as I described, which different parts of different transactions are weighted more or less heavily on. It's an entire industry unto itself, realtor education, and you should become familiar with it to help you understand which designations are important for your specific property. But the realtor themselves, you should be able to call them up. Hey, I noticed this designation. I've done a little bit of research on it. Can you flesh this out for me a little bit? Help me understand really what it took for you to win this designation and how it relates to my property. Let's also talk about licensure. I myself and my team, we are all licensed in, let me talk just about myself. I'm licensed in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and New York State. My team also holds a license in Connecticut, collectively those 4 states. However, just because we are licensed in those states doesn't mean that we've done transactions. I mean, we have. Obviously, I'm giving you this information. We've done many transactions in all of these states. But you can review information about each agent's licensure within these states all across the period of their career. Have you been licensed consistently in these localities all across the span of your tenure as a realtor? Have you had any disciplinary actions levied against you by either the state licensing board or, in our case, the National Association of Realtors? Have you ever had revocations? Has your license had to be revoked and reinstated later on? It's all fine to have extraordinary experience in every sector of real estate, and you're researching this person, and the reviews are good, and you've sussed everything else out, but they've had 3 or any really punitive actions taken against them by either the state board or the National Association of Realtors. Who wants to get in bed with that person? They're effective most of the time, but every once in a while they do the absolute most wrong thing they can, and they get their wrist slapped by the governing boards. We really don't want that. So you can do some research there. Ask about any other certifications that they may have in addition to just real estate licensure. There are lots of folks out there who also have dual licensure as property inspectors. Maybe somewhat of a conflict of interest to hire these folks as your inspector for your buyer in addition to your selling realtor, because then they have a conflict of interest in making sure that these buyers don't blow up the transaction by virtue of whatever information they've been given as an inspector. But appraisers, et cetera, et cetera. There's a whole host of other licensure that could come along with a real estate professional's experience that could be important for your particular property. You have to do some research there. References, I could give you thousands, literally. If your interviewee, if the realtor that you're interviewing is even reticent, even a little bit, to offer you references from whomever, it could be industry professionals, lawyers, accountants, appraisers, any other realtors that they've worked with, let alone other sellers. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to give away a private person's contact information for reasons of offering a good review, but it should be possible. if you've done a really good job as a realtor in the past, I should be able to pick up the phone to one of my sellers that I've worked with in the past and, hey, would you mind me giving you a contact information to somebody else I'm looking to work with for you to give me a review? I have a bunch of those in the pocket that I've already talked to about this thing, so it's not like I'm calling them up and coaching them like, hey, you got to say this, that, and the other thing. I'll just give you the numbers and the email addresses for you to go ahead and call, so I'm not getting ahead of any potential conversation between you and the person that I've listed as a reference. And beyond that, even professional resumes. I have something that I can offer you just as a one-pager here. You can read about me and some of the previous transactions I've done. All of this information is available in different places online, but here's an easy place for you to look it up. And this allows you to then, as I described, do some more due diligence about whomever it is you're thinking about hiring on your own time, a little bit more slowly, get a little bit more in depth before you get into bed and marry a realtor for the long haul. I hope this helps. That one was a little bit shorter. There's not a heck of a lot you haven't done already in the interview process that you can do post-interview, but we'll go into a couple of more things. You're almost done. 2 more episodes in this final segment regarding you don't need no stinking realtor, except that maybe you do, and that's why you're watching this 11th one. But good on you, and we'll get you the last couple of pieces in a minute. Like, share, and subscribe if you are enjoying it. We'll see you on the last 2 pieces.